The sun always seemed to shine brighter over our beach house. Every morning, the waves whispered against the shore, and the salty air carried laughter from the open kitchen window. I used to believe it was the sound of happiness, our happiness. I was the wife who had it all, or so everyone said. A loving husband, a beautiful home by the ocean, and a best friend who felt more like a sister. Life was soft and golden, a movie scene I thought would never end. Ethan, my husband, was the kind of man people admired. Charming, confident, always with a kind word for everyone. He'd kiss my forehead each morning before his jog, saying, "You're my reason to come home." And I believed him, every word. Then there was Chloe, my best friend since college. The one who held my hand through every storm. She lived just a few blocks away, always dropping by with coffee or gossip, filling the house with warmth. Ethan liked her too, said she was easy to talk to. I used to smile at that. Now the thought makes my stomach twist. Back then I was blind, or maybe I simply saw what I wanted to see. Our evenings were full of laughter, dinner parties, and late-night walks on the beach. People often said, "You two are perfect together." I used to beam with pride, never realizing that perfection can sometimes be just the best kind of lie. I remember one night vividly, the waves glowing under the moonlight, Ethan wrapping his arms around me. "Promise me," he said softly, "no matter what happens, you'll always trust me." I laughed, resting my head against his chest. Why wouldn't I? If only I had known that trust would be the first thing he'd take from me. Looking back now, I can see all the little things I missed. The late-night phone calls, the subtle glances, the sudden urge to work late. But in that moment, I was still a woman in love, standing at the edge of her own heartbreak, smiling at the sea. That beach house was more than a home. It was a dream built on devotion, laughter, and faith. But it would soon become a monument to betrayal, the place where everything I believed in fell apart. And the saddest part, I still thought we were happy. Started small, almost invisible. Ethan began spending more time on his phone, his screen lighting up at odd hours. When I'd ask who it was, he'd smile, that calm, reassuring smile I used to love. "Just work, sweetheart. You know how clients can be." I believed him, because that's what wives do when they love too much and doubt too little. Chloe started coming around more often. She'd show up with a bottle of wine or a tray of cookies, laughing like she didn't have a care in the world. Sometimes Ethan would join us on the patio, the three of us sitting under the golden evening sun, sipping and chatting. I remember one evening when she spilled a bit of wine on her dress. Ethan jumped up to grab a towel, his hands brushing hers a little too long. They laughed about it, and I laughed too, because what else was I supposed to do? Admit that something inside me didn't like the way their eyes met. It was nothing, I told myself, just my imagination. But the small things started adding up. Ethan stopped complimenting me. He used to notice when I changed my hair, when I wore his favorite blue dress. Now his eyes skimmed over me like I was wallpaper. When I'd ask about his day, his answers were shorter. When I tried to plan weekend trips, he said he was too tired. The warmth between us was fading, replaced by a cold politeness that stung worse than anger. One night I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs for some water and found his phone on the counter. The screen lit up with a message from a name I didn't expect, Chloe. My heart froze. The message was simple. "I miss you already. Wish you didn't have to go home." I stared at those words until the letters blurred. My chest tightened, my hands trembling so badly that I dropped the glass I was holding. It shattered across the tiles, the sound slicing through the silence of the house that once felt like love. Ethan rushed in from the bedroom, concern etched on his face. "What happened?" I forced a smile, my voice breaking. "Just dropped a glass." He helped me clean it up, his hands gentle, his voice soft, and all I could think was, how can someone look so caring while breaking your heart? That night, I lay awake beside him, staring at the ceiling. The waves outside crashed softly against the shore, like whispers of warning. And for the first time, I didn't feel at home in my own house. I didn't know it then, but that text was just the beginning of a truth that would destroy everything and rebuild me into someone stronger. The next morning, everything looked the same. The golden sunrise over the ocean, the sound of waves, the smell of Ethan's coffee brewing in the kitchen. But something had changed inside me. The air felt heavier. Every smile looked rehearsed. Every word he said carried an echo of something false. I wanted to confront him. I wanted to scream, to throw that phone in his face and demand the truth. But fear held me back. Fear of hearing what I already knew. So instead I did what women like me often do. I pretended. When Chloe came over later that week, I studied her closely. Her hair was perfectly done, her perfume familiar. Too familiar. I'd smelled it on Ethan's jacket 2 nights ago. She hugged me tightly, her voice light and carefree. "You look tired, babe. Everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Just didn't sleep much." We sat together drinking coffee. She chatted about her new fitness routine, her favorite cafe, the beach bonfire she went to last weekend. I listened, but my mind was racing. That same weekend, Ethan said he was on a business trip. The pieces were aligning, painfully, like shards of broken glass finding their pattern. Later that day, Ethan came home late. I pretended to be asleep as he tiptoed into bed. I could smell her perfume on him again. That floral scent that used to comfort me now made me sick. The next morning I made breakfast like everything was fine. He kissed my cheek before heading out, and I stood there, staring at the doorway after he left. My reflection in the window looked unfamiliar. Not a wife, not a friend, just a woman slowly unraveling. I decided to test something. That afternoon I texted Chloe. "Hey, want to grab dinner tonight? Just us girls." Minutes passed. Then her reply came. "Ugh, I wish I could, but I already promised someone I'd meet up." Rain check. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Someone. I didn't need to ask who. That night I drove to Ethan's office. Just to see. His car wasn't there. I checked the cafe nearby, empty. Then, on impulse, I drove to the little beach trail we used to walk together. And there they were. Ethan and Chloe. Sitting close on a bench, laughing. Her hand on his head bent toward hers. My breath caught in my throat. The world tilted. The ocean roared in my ears, but inside me, everything went quiet. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there, watching the two people I loved most, tangled in the worst kind of betrayal. When I finally turned back toward the car, the sea wind hit my face like a slap, cold and sharp but cleansing. That was the moment I stopped being the woman who waited for love, and started becoming the woman who would take her power back. I barely slept that night. The image of Ethan and Chloe sitting together under the moonlight replayed in my head over and over like a cruel movie. Every laugh they shared, every touch I saw, it carved deeper into my heart. By morning I wasn't crying anymore. I was cold, ill, determined. Ethan came home, humming to himself as if the world was perfect. He kissed my forehead, said he'd been working late. The lie rolled off his tongue so smoothly, it almost sounded rehearsed. I stared at him. I wondered how many lies he had told me. How many times I'd smiled and believed every word. When he left for work again, I started digging. His emails were easy to access. He'd never changed his password. I found the first one quickly. A message from Chloe, timestamped 2 months ago. Last night was perfect. I can't stop thinking about you. I wish things were simpler. And his reply just below it. Soon, my love. You know how complicated it is right now. But I promise I'm yours. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. The coffee beside me had gone cold, untouched. I scrolled further, each message slicing deeper than the last. Photos, plans, weekend trips. They'd even used the beach house, my favorite place, as their little hideaway. For a long time I sat there in silence, listening to the waves crash outside. The beach had always been my sanctuary. Now it was their secret. That evening when Ethan returned, I had dinner ready. Candles, music, everything looked normal. He smiled, kissed my cheek and said, "This looks amazing, babe." Smiled back. "It's a special night." He didn't notice the tremor in my voice. As we ate, I asked casually, "Do you ever think we've grown apart?" He looked up, confused. "What do you mean?" "Just wondering," I said softly. "You're always so busy. Sometimes I wonder if you still feel the same." He reached across the table and took my hand. "Of course I do. You're my everything, Anna." The lie burned. After dinner, I went upstairs, closed the door, and let the tears fall silently. Not because I still loved him, but because I finally didn't. The next morning I called my lawyer. I told him I wanted to transfer the beach house title solely to me, Ethan's name off the deed. He said it could be done within days since I'd purchased it before the marriage. But by the time Ethan noticed anything, I'd already started packing a few of my belongings. I wasn't leaving the house, he was. He just didn't know it yet. That night as he slept, I looked at him one last time and whispered to myself, "This ends tomorrow." Because when love dies, all that's left is the truth. And I was ready to set mine free. The morning sun spilled through the curtains, painting the room gold. But for me it felt cold. The air was thick with the weight of everything I'd learned, everything I'd lost. Today wasn't just another day. Today was the day. Ethan sat at the kitchen table scrolling through his phone, sipping coffee like nothing in the world could touch him. His shirt was neatly pressed, his hair styled, the perfect husband on the surface. I stood there for a moment watching him, trying to understand how someone who once made me feel so safe could become the person who shattered me. He finally looked up. "You okay, babe? You've been quiet lately." I smiled faintly, almost amused. "I'm fine, Ethan. Actually, better than fine." He frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" I placed my phone on the table and pressed play. From its speaker came a voice, her voice. Chloe's laughter, soft and intimate. Then Ethan's lower, teasing. Words they should have never shared. His face drained of color. "Anna, where did you?" Cut him off. "So it is true. You and Chloe. My best friend. My husband." He stammered. "It's not what you think." "Oh please," I snapped. "I've read the emails. Seen the photos. You used our beach house as your little love nest." He opened his mouth, but no words came. The silence between us roared louder than any wave outside. "Do you know what hurts the most, Ethan?" I whispered. "Not the cheating. Not even the lies. It's that I gave you everything. My trust, my loyalty, my years, and you threw it all away for her." His expression hardened. "You don't understand. Things haven't been right between us for a long time." I laughed bitterly. "And that gave you permission to destroy me?" He slammed his coffee mug down, frustration replacing guilt. "Maybe if you'd paid more attention to us instead of everything else." That was it. The switch flipped. I stood tall, looking him straight in the eyes. "You can justify it however you want, Ethan. But I'm done. You lost me. You lost this home. You lost everything." He blinked. "What do you mean, lost this home?" "Oh, didn't I mention?" I said calmly, walking toward the door. "I had the deed changed. This house belongs to me now. You have until tonight to pack your things." He stared at me in shock. "You can't do that." "I already did." For a moment, he looked like he might argue. But then he saw something in my eyes, something final, something he couldn't fight. Without another word, I left the room. My hands trembled, my heart raced, but for the first time in months, felt free. Outside, the waves crashed against the shore. The same sound that once soothed me now felt like a victory song. I wasn't the broken wife anymore. I was the woman who finally stood up for herself. Ethan didn't leave quietly. Of course he didn't. By evening, the house was filled with the sound of drawers slamming and hurried footsteps. He packed his things in angry silence while I sat on the balcony, staring at the ocean that had witnessed every piece of my heartbreak. When he finally appeared at the doorway, suitcase in hand, his face was a mixture of disbelief and wounded pride. "You're making a mistake, Anna," he said bitterly. "You think you can just throw away everything we built." I looked at him calmly. "You already did that, Ethan. I'm just cleaning up the mess." He scoffed. "And what? You'll live here alone, pretending you're better off." I smiled faintly. "Not pretending. Knowing." He shook his head, muttering something under his breath, and stormed out. The sound of his car fading down the driveway felt like the final page of a chapter one was never meant to stay in. For a moment I just sat there in silence. The air was still heavy, but there was a strange peace in it. The kind that comes when you've lost everything and survived anyway. A few days later, the news spread through our circle of friends. And of course it reached Chloe. She called me. I let it ring twice before answering. Her voice was soft, hesitant. "Anna, I didn't mean for any of this to happen." I laughed. Not cruelly but tiredly. "You didn't mean for it to happen. Chloe, you chose it. You chose him. You chose to betray me." She started crying. "He told me you were done with him. That you didn't love him anymore." "That's what cheaters do," I said quietly. "They rewrite the story so they don't look like the villain." There was silence on the line. Then she whispered, "He left me, Anna. Said he needs time to figure himself out. He's not answering my calls." A bitter irony twisted inside me. She'd burned down our friendship for him, and he'd already moved on to save himself. "Then I guess you both got what you deserved," I said softly and ended the call. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and stood on the balcony again. The beach stretched endlessly before me, the waves glimmering under the moonlight. I'd loved this house once because it represented my dream, a future with Ethan, full of laughter and memories. But now it was something else entirely. It was my freedom. And that's when the idea first came to me. I didn't want to keep this house as a reminder of betrayal. I wanted to turn it into a symbol of closure, a clean break. I opened my laptop and sent a message to my real estate agent. List the beach house for sale. Effective immediately. As I hit send, I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. This wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the beginning of me. The next morning, the real estate agent, a kind woman named Melissa, arrived at the beach house. She'd sold properties along the coast for years, but when she stepped inside, even she paused. "It's beautiful," she said softly, looking around at the high ceilings, the sunlight pouring through the glass doors, the ocean glimmering in the distance. "Are you sure you want to let this go?" I nodded, my voice calm. "I'm sure. It's time." She gave me a gentle, knowing smile. Sometimes letting go is the most powerful thing we can do. As she walked around taking photos, I found myself wandering through the rooms, each one whispering a memory. The kitchen where Ethan and I had danced barefoot after dinner. The living room where Chloe and I used to laugh for hours. The bedroom where I once thought forever was real. Now all those moments felt like echoes from someone else's life. When Melissa left, the silence returned. But this time it didn't feel empty. It felt peaceful, like the house itself was ready to move on too. Few days later, offers started pouring in. The beach house was prime real estate. Everyone wanted it. Melissa called one morning with excitement in her voice. "Anna, we have a buyer. A retired couple from Oregon. They said the house feels like a dream come true." Smiled. "Then it's meant to be theirs." After hanging up, I walked to the window and watched the waves crash against the rocks. For the first time in months, I didn't feel that sting in my chest when I thought of Ethan or Chloe. Instead, I felt free. The sale closed within 2 weeks. The morning I signed the papers, I took one last walk along the shore. The sky was painted in soft pinks and golds, the kind of morning that almost makes you believe in second chances. I picked up a seashell, small and smooth, and held it tightly in my hand. "Goodbye," I whispered, not to the house, not to Ethan or Chloe, but to the version of myself who thought she had to stay to be loved. That night, I invited Melissa and a few neighbors over for a quiet farewell dinner. There was laughter, music, and warmth. Not forced, not fragile, but real. As everyone left, Melissa hugged me and said, "You know, Anna, sometimes the best revenge isn't anger or pain. It's peace." Smiled. "I think I finally understand that." Later, as I turned off the lights and looked around the house one last time, I didn't see the memories of betrayal anymore. I saw strength. I saw growth. I saw a woman who had rebuilt herself piece by piece. Tomorrow the house would belong to someone else. But tonight it was mine, and I was saying goodbye on my own terms. A week after the sale, I was packing the last of my boxes when I heard a knock at the door. The sound froze me mid-step. No one was supposed to visit. The movers were coming tomorrow, and Melissa had already said her goodbyes. When I opened the door, I wasn't surprised. Ethan stood there. He looked different. Tired, unshaven, eyes shadowed by sleepless nights. The charm that once made me melt was gone, replaced by a quiet desperation. He tried to smile, but it faltered halfway. "Hi, Anna." I crossed my arms, leaning on the doorframe. "What do you want, Ethan?" He hesitated, his eyes drifting past me into the house. "I heard you sold it." "Yes," I said evenly. "It's done." He exhaled slowly, rubbing the back of his neck. "I don't know what I expected. I guess I just didn't think you'd actually go through with it." I let out a small laugh. "That's the thing, Ethan. You never thought I'd actually do anything. You thought I'd just stay here waiting while you played house with someone else." His face tightened. "It wasn't like that." "Don't lie," I said sharply. "Not anymore." He lowered his gaze. "I made a mistake, Anna. Big one. I know I hurt you. But I thought maybe we could talk. Try to fix things." "Fix?" I repeated, stunned for a moment before shaking my head. "You can't fix something you burned to the ground." He stepped closer. "I still love you." The words hit me like a gust of wind, not because I believed them, but because once they were everything I'd ever wanted to hear. But that woman, the one who would have broken at those words, she didn't live here anymore. I looked him in the eyes and said softly, "Ethan, you don't love me. You love the version of me who tolerated your lies. And she's gone." He swallowed hard. "So that's it. You're just done." "I was done the moment I saw you with her." He sighed, defeated. "You're stronger than I thought." "No," I said quietly. "I just finally realized my worth." There was nothing more to say. He nodded once, a flicker of regret crossing his face, and turned away. As he walked down the path, the setting sun painted his figure in gold, like a ghost fading into light. When the door closed behind him, I leaned against it and took a deep breath. My hands trembled, but my heart felt lighter than it had in years. For the first time, I wasn't haunted by the past. I was ready for the future, whatever it held. And as the last rays of the sun disappeared beyond the waves, I whispered to myself, "Thank you for leaving, so I could finally find me." The morning after Ethan's visit, I woke to sunlight streaming through the bare windows of my nearly empty home. The sound of the ocean was softer now, like a goodbye whispered on the wind. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel the weight of memories pressing on my chest. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the tears, they were still part of my story, but no longer the whole of it. The movers arrived mid-morning, and I watched as the last of my boxes were carried out. With every piece that left, I felt something loosen inside me, the emotional clutter I'd been holding on to. When the last truck pulled away, I stood there with my keys in hand, staring at the beach house one final time. The laughter, the love, the pain, all of it lived in those walls. But I'd made peace with it. Melissa met me outside. "So," she asked gently, "where to next?" I smiled, the answer already resting on my tongue. "A small apartment in the city, near the art studio." Because somewhere in all the chaos, I'd remembered something about myself. Something I had lost while being a wife, a friend, a caretaker. Before Ethan, I used to paint. I used to lose hours mixing colors, creating worlds that only existed in my imagination. It was time to go back to that version of me. A few weeks later, my new life began. The apartment was small but full of light. The walls were blank canvases waiting for me. Every morning I'd make coffee, open the window, and breathe in the hum of the city, the sound of possibility. I enrolled in a community art program, surrounded by people who didn't know my story. I wasn't the betrayed wife there. I was just Anna, an artist rediscovering her fire. One afternoon while painting, I felt tears well in my eyes, not from sadness but from gratitude. For surviving, for choosing myself, for proving that heartbreak didn't have to end you, it could reshape you. Melissa visited once, bringing a small gift, a photo of the beach house taken at sunset. "For memory," she said. I placed it on my windowsill, smiled and whispered, "Thank you for everything and for letting me go." Weeks turned into months. My art began to sell. People started noticing. A local gallery even offered to host my first solo exhibition. As I stood there on opening night surrounded by my work, I realized something profound. I had built something beautiful from the ashes. I wasn't just healed. I was reborn. And as I looked out at the smiling faces, the laughter, the light, I knew the beach house, the betrayal, even Ethan and Chloe, were all part of the journey that led me here. To freedom. It was a warm summer evening, almost a year since I'd sold the beach house. The city buzzed outside my window, alive with laughter and light. I stood in front of a canvas, brush in hand, surrounded by colors that spoke louder than words ever could. Life had changed, not in a dramatic movie-like way, but in small, steady steps that built something stronger inside me. The woman who once cried herself to sleep, questioning her worth, now woke each day with purpose. My art had started to draw attention. The exhibition Melissa encouraged me to do had turned into something bigger. Local magazines wrote about it, and people connected with the emotion in my work. They said my paintings felt real. Maybe because they were painted with pieces of my truth. One evening, I received a message from a stranger who had seen my work. "Your painting waves of letting go made me cry. I'm leaving a toxic relationship, and your art gave me courage. Thank you." I stared at the message for a long time, tears filling my eyes, the good kind this time. That was the moment I realized something profound. My pain had transformed into someone else's hope. A week later, Melissa called again. "You'll never believe this," she said, her voice bright with excitement. "The couple who bought your beach house just invited me for dinner. They love it. They've restored everything, the garden, the balcony, the art room. They said it finally feels like a home again." I smiled softly. "That's perfect. It's exactly what it was meant to be. A fresh start." After the call, I sat by the window and watched the sunset turn the sky into a masterpiece. For a moment I thought about Ethan. Not with anger, just quiet acceptance. He was part of a chapter one had closed with grace. Chloe, too, had become just a distant name in a story that no longer defined me. I whispered to myself, "Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about freeing yourself." That night, I painted something new. A woman standing by the ocean, the wind in her hair, the horizon glowing ahead. I titled it Full Circle. When I finished, I stepped back and smiled. Because this was my story. Not of betrayal, but of rebirth. Not of endings, but of beginnings. The beach house, the heartbreak, the loneliness. All of it had led me here. To strength, to peace, to myself. And as I turned off the lights and looked once more at my painting, I felt a calm certainty deep within me. We don't always get to choose who breaks our hearts. But we do get to choose how we rebuild. And sometimes the greatest revenge isn't justice or anger. It's joy. It's waking up one day realizing you've healed. And smiling because you finally became the person you were always meant to be.